Hi everyone, I am from Economics Harbour and I will be conducting the classes for the UGC NET Economics online crash course. So yesterday, that is May 5th, 2020, we conducted a demo session for our UGC NET online crash course, and we were requested by many students to share the demo video. Though we did not record the video then, but today we are going to share, or we are going to start circulating the demo video just for the reference for those who wish to join the classes. So before beginning the demo lecture, I'll just briefly tell you about how we'll conduct the course. So the online net crash course by Economics Harbour will be conducted over a period of like say 1.5 months, and it will consist of 30 lectures in total for 1.5 hours each, Monday to Friday. And we will be beginning the classes from May 11th, 2020, that is coming Monday. So we discussed in our demo session, we discussed the concept of demand. So I'll just briefly explain you the concept of demand in this one, in the demo session as well. So it is very important to remember that the concept of demand was given by Alfred Marshall in 1890s in his book, The Principles of Economics. So according to him, the demand can be represented by these 5 characteristics. First being the desire. The desire to consume a commodity will reflect or will generate demand. Second is willingness to purchase the commodity, that you are willing to spend on the commodity, even that will generate demand. Third is the ability to pay for the commodity. Your income levels should allow you to purchase that commodity. Fourth being the price of the commodity. So whether or not you think that the price is genuine or not will affect your demand for the commodity. And lastly, you have the time. Time in the sense that whether you can postpone the consumption of that commodity, or you can, like, how long will you consume it, so on and so forth. So with this, we come to one conclusion, that demand is a flow concept. Flow concept in the sense that a commodity is demanded over a period of time, right? So that is why it is a flow concept. Next important point is the 2 terms or the 2 phrases, that is, first is the change in demand and second is the change in quantity demanded. We'll begin with the change in quantity demanded. This is affected by the price of the commodity, price of the own good, and it is represented as the movement along the demand curve. There will be a movement along the demand curve. So this curve shows an expansion of demand, and similarly an upward movement will show a contraction in demand, right? So with expansion, we mean that a fall in price will increase the demand. And with contraction, we mean that a rise in price will lead to a fall in demand. So the change in quantity demanded is due to the change in price. Next we have is the change in demand. So the change in demand is because of factors other than price, like you have your income levels, you have prices of related goods, you have tastes and preferences, and so on. So these factors reflect the change in demand, right? And they cause a shift in the demand curve. It is important that the change in demand leads to a shift in the demand curve. So a rightward shift will imply an increase in demand, and a leftward shift will imply a decrease in demand. Right? Okay. Coming on to the demand function. So the demand is a function of first being the price of the good, and it is inversely related to the price. So this implies that a rise in price will lead to a fall in demand and vice versa. Though exceptions like given goods are there, but currently we are just considering it for a normal good, that there's an inverse relationship between the price and the quantity demanded of a good. Second factor is the income levels. So there's a positive relationship, right, between the income and the quantity demanded of a good. A rise in income will lead to a rise in quantity demanded, right, and vice versa. Again, the exception is the inferior good. Inferior goods which have a negative or an inverse relationship with the quantity demanded. The income levels and the quantity demanded have an inverse relationship, right? Third being the price of related goods. Okay. Okay, so apologies for the interruption. Third point we have is the price of related goods. Now, in case of related goods, we have two cases, either a substitute good or a complementary good. I'll be repeating again that usually students do get confused between substitutes and complementary goods. So substitute goods, just remember the keywords, that it is in place of, and complementary is with, right? So in case of substitute goods, the relationship between price and quantity demanded will be positive. And in case of complementary good, the relationship between price and quantity demanded will be negative. So this implies that for substitutes, if there's a rise in, say, price of good Y, the quantity demanded of good X will increase, meaning that when there's an increase in the price of Y, the commodity Y will become more expensive as compared to the good X. And that is why there will be a rise in the quantity demanded of X. Next we have is the complementary goods. For the complementary goods, the relationship is negative, meaning that if there is an increase in the price of Y, the quantity demanded of good X will also decrease. Why? Because an increase in price of Y will lead to a decrease in quantity demanded of Y. And because X and Y are consumed together, so there will be a decrease in demand for X. Then we have is the taste and preferences. Taste and preferences, you have favorable taste and you have unfavorable taste. In case of favorable taste, there will be a positive relation, meaning that if there is an increase in price, the commodity or the consumer will consume that commodity. So a rise in price will lead to an increase in demand or making the demand constant, right? There will be no change or there will be a change in the positive direction. But in case of unfavorable taste, there is a negative relationship, implying that a rise in price will lead to a decrease in demand. Then the next factor is the advertisement outlay. Right, this is from the producer's point of view, and there's a positive relationship. It shows a positive relationship between price and the quantity demanded of it. So a rise in the advertisement expenditure will lead to an increase in demand. Next factor we have is the future expectations. So in case of future expectations, there is like if the prices are expected to increase in future, the quantity demanded at present will increase and vice versa. And last factor we have is the number of customers in the market. If there are more customers, the demand will increase. So coming on to the law of demand, this was given by Alfred Marshall, and it is a partial equilibrium analysis. Why a partial equilibrium analysis? Why a partial equilibrium analysis? Because the law of demand only studies the relationship between price and quantity demanded. So that is why it is a partial equilibrium analysis. So it assumes that the relationship between with all the income levels, the prices of related goods and so on, they are held constant. So the law of demand states that there is an inverse relationship between the price of the commodity and the quantity demanded of it. So the law of demand can be represented in two ways. First is the graphical, and second is the tabular. Right. In case of graphical, we have the demand curve, and it shows a downward sloping demand curve, implying that as the price of the commodity decreases, the quantity demanded of it increases. So it shows an inverse relationship, right? Similarly, for tabular, we have the demand schedule. It shows that if there is a decrease in price, the quantity demanded of it is increasing. But please note that the demand curve and the demand schedule do not tell us what the market price of a commodity is, but they only give you the permutations and combinations that, okay, if we charge this much price, this will be the quantity demanded, and so on and so forth. It does not tell you that what the prevailing market price of the commodity is. Coming on to the market demand. So the market demand is nothing but the horizontal summation of individual demands. So if we have, this is for individual A, we have, this is for individual B, and so therefore the market demand will be A plus B, and this will be a relatively flatter curve. And market demand is affected by the population level as well, right? Coming on to the reasons for the downward sloping demand curve. First and the most important reason is the law of DMU, right? So this was given by Alfred Marshall, and it states that as the consumer consumes more and more of a good, the marginal utility derived from each successive unit keeps on decreasing. So when you consume more of a good, then because your marginal utility or the utility derived from each successive unit is decreasing, then also automatically you'll be willing, remember the word willingness, you'll be willing to pay lesser and lesser price for that good. And that is why there is a downward sloping demand curve. Second is the income effect. Now, income effect is that if there is a decrease in price, there will be a rise in real income. For example, the money income or the nominal income is 100 and the price of the good is rupees 10. So you will be able to purchase 10 units of the commodity. Now, if the price reduces to say rupees 5, the rise in quantity or the rise in real income will be 20, implying that now with the same given level of income, you can purchase more number of units of the commodity, that is 20. So this is the rise in real income. So the income effect states that if there is a decrease in price, there will be an increase in real income, which implies that there is an increase in purchasing power. And this leads to an increase in demand. Okay. Next is the substitution effect. So third is the substitution effect. The substitution effect states that if there is a decrease in price of say X, now X becomes cheaper as compared to other substitutes available in the market. And as a result, its demand increases. Now please note that Marshall explained the downward sloping demand curve with the effect of substitution effect alone. He did not consider the effect, income effect. Income effect was used later by say Hicks and Allen, Slutsky and so on. But Marshall restricted himself to only the substitution effect to explain the downward sloping demand curve. Fourth is different uses of a commodity, right? So now if there is a decrease in price, so the commodity can be put to different uses. So as a result, the demand increases. And last factor is the size of the market, right? So if there is a decrease in price, more people will be attracted to it, and therefore it will lead to an increase in demand. But then we have exceptions to the law of demand as well, right? So first exception is the Veblen effect. So this is for goods having prestige value, and this is also known as the doctrine of conspicuous consumption. This has come many times in the examination. So please remember the keyword conspicuous consumption. So in this case, in the case of Veblen effect, the goods with a prestige value, right, they will be demanded more with the rise in price. This holds true for say antiques or paintings and so on. Second we have is the Giffen goods, right? This was given by Robert Giffen, and he stated that there is, for Giffen goods, there is a positive relationship between price and demand. That is, we'll have an upward sloping demand curve, right? So also please note here that this relationship is very important, that all Giffen goods are inferior goods, but not all inferior goods are Giffen goods. So this is very important from the exam point of view. So coming back to the case of Giffen goods, yesterday I told the students about the history of Giffen goods. So there was this war, American war, where soldiers were stuck with very little income levels and so on, right? Their option was either to consume potato or to consume meat. So if they use their entire income, they thought of even if they thought of purchasing meat, they got a very minimal amount, negligible amount of meat. So they preferred to invest their entire income on potatoes. But when there was a decline in the price of potato, they thought that this can be used, like the remaining or the additional real income which they have received, they can invest it on a more nutritional good, and they can purchase a wholesome meat meal, right? So that is how the Giffen goods came into picture. Third reason, third exception is the ignorance on the part of the consumer. So if the consumer is ignorant and he does not know about the prices in the market, so he will end up buying the same good at a higher price. Also the expectations. So if the prices are expected to increase in future, the quantity demanded at present will increase. And last will be the case of war. where hoarding takes place at a higher price. And this is what is happening these days as well. Coming on to the two effects, the bandwagon and the snob effect. So the bandwagon effect is related to the word fashion. So just because the commodity is in fashion, people will end up buying the same good at a higher price. And the example which I gave yesterday was that of an iPhone, right? So because iPhone is in fashion, people do buy iPhones. Next is the snob effect. So the snob effect is, it arises because of the desire to purchase a commodity, right? Just because it has a prestige value. So you'll buy more expensive good, or you'll buy the good which is at a higher price just because of the characteristic of uniqueness involved in it, right? So coming on to the increase or decrease in demand, though we've done it earlier, I'll just rush through it. So the increase or decrease in demand, it leads to a shift in the demand curve. And it is caused by factors other than price, like incomes, taste and preferences, and so on. So a rightward shift will imply an increase in demand, and a leftward shift will imply a decrease in demand. Similarly, we have expansion or contraction of demand curve, which is caused by the movement on the demand curve, right? A downward movement implies an expansion of demand, and an upward movement implies a contractionary demand. And this is caused because of the price level. So in case of expansionary demand, with the fall in price levels, the quantity demanded will increase. And in case of the contractionary or contraction of demand, a rise in price level will lead to a fall in quantity demanded. Next we have is the demand for durable goods, right? So the durable goods can be stored, and hence their prices are not volatile. You can consume those durable goods for a long period of time. So the examples are like refrigerators or cars. They're used for a period, like on an average, they're used for a period of more than 5 years, or 3 years to 5 years, and even more than that. That is why the prices are not volatile. Their demand is not very quickly generated. Next we have is the consumption of durable goods. So in case of durable goods, their consumption can be postponed in the way that people can postpone it, or they can wait for some more time to see that if the prices fall in future or not. Lastly, we have is the derived demand, and it is the demand for goods which are used to produce other goods. For example, labor. So labor is not directly demanded, but labor is demanded just to produce the goods for use. So with this, we come to the